Hello, everybody. Welcome to Freedom State of Mind. I'm your host, Camille Thurman. And this week's guest, I am just really excited and thrilled to be sharing this hour with because she is somebody that is, like Adam said, is an icon. She is a role model, a mentor, a wonderful performer, and just a groundbreaking artist in so many levels. I'd like for you to welcome Dee Dee Bridgewater. Hi, Dee Dee.
Hi, Camille. Hi. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay. I
Oh,
can't complain. Doesn't change anything, does it?
nope, it doesn't. Thank you so much for joining me this evening on Freedom.
Of course, sweetheart.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, and I just want to start off first with what's your understanding of what freedom is? Like, what is freedom to you?
Freedom to me, freedom is is like an evasive little birdie that flies that you kind of try to catch every now and then. Um, Freedom for me as a Black woman has been music.
Hmm.
My music, it's been jazz music. It's been about being able to get on a stage, no matter how small or how large that stage is, and to have a conversation with other musicians who have come together with me to break this musical bread, so to speak.
Mhm.
That's the only area, Camille, where I feel completely free. It's when I am on stage. And doing jazz music for me is about being free because we're able to take songs and completely dissect them and put them back together again and even completely rearrange them if we so desire. That's freedom. In life, that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't want to just keep talking.
No, it's okay. That's why we're here. I just want to hear your perspective on it because it's interesting for us. We function as artists, but we're also people within the community, and our understanding and interpretation of what freedom is it's beautiful because we're able to express it through our art, but then we're also able to live it through the exchanges that we have in people and use that as inspiration for what we do. So please.
Well, that's true. I mean, of course, our interactions are important for us because we are artists, and it is about being able to interact, to share, to commune with each other. So that's wonderful. And then because the music has created this kind of free space for us, once we live in that space, and if we're good enough in that space, we're rewarded. And if you continue doing this thing that where you feel free, where you are free for a given period of time, then, over the years, you will receive blessings. And, I've been doing this business now for 50 years. And, when I walk around my house, I see an accumulation of things that I've acquired over those 50 years. When people come to my home, they go, "Oh my God, you have a gorgeous home." And I say, "Well, it wasn't always like this." I can tell you just about every piece that I have, where I got it, when I got it,
Yeah.
and so it's been a building up of things for me. But otherwise, we try to find peace. I think I try to find peace in freedom in my daily living experiences. But what I have noticed, what I've become acutely aware of since the pandemic,
Mm.
is how small my free circle is, actually, where I feel comfortable. Because of the times that we're in right now, I have to say, for the first time in my life, I am fearful.
Mm.
I am fearful for myself as a Black woman. I am fearful for my people, for all Black people. I'm fearful for my children. I'm fearful for my grandchildren, and we are just within my own proper family, we are all kinds of shades of brown.
Right.
You know, from very, very, very fair, just looking exotic, because this is a term that likes to be thrown out, to, you know, being definitely Black, you know, because your skin is of a darker hue.
Mm.
So I've just started feeling, I'm more acutely aware of my Blackness, of being Black and being Black in a Southern state. I'm just really acutely aware of my Blackness, and it's thrown me back into like the 60s, when I used to be very, very careful about how I dressed, so that when I would go out, I could get the kind of respect that I was trying to achieve. I've noticed, you know, since the pandemic happened, I dress. When I get up, I get dressed. I put on jewelry. You know, I try and put on nice clothes, because I need to have that kind of freedom in order for me to feel good about myself, just going through a day.
Right.
You know, so this is just a very interesting period that we're in. I don't know where we're going. I don't think anybody really does.
No.
What are your thoughts, oh young Jedi Master?
Me, you know, I was going to ask you, it was one of my questions, what was it like during the 60s? Because, you know, for my generation, we know the stories of Abby Lincoln and Max Roach and John Coltrane and Nina Simone and what they went through, and how artists came together during times like this in supporting one another, but then also in advocating for their communities and using their platforms as a way to speak out against racial injustice. And I wasn't around during that time. I only have the stories, I only have the videos, I only have the books. But could you share what was happening during that time from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, I came along a little bit after.
Yeah.
Abby and Max, and, you know, all of these amazing legends. So, you know, like, I was a young teenager when we had the riots in Detroit. I didn't even know about the riots in Detroit because I was living in Flint.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, we didn't have that same kind of access to things going on. But because I was young, maybe 13, you know, I was at the beginning of my teenage years. My parents didn't discuss this with my sister and I. So I was not aware that this was going on. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So my awareness came about because I think my parents, even though by that time they had divorced or they had separated, I believe that they thought that the best thing for my sister, whose name is Rhonda, for Rhonda and I, was to just keep us in this kind of little cocoon so that we didn't know. And it wasn't until I really went away to school, to Michigan State University, where I really became aware of what was going on. And I mean, I had heard about the Black Panthers, but they had a breakfast program that they had started in East Lansing, where Michigan State is. And so I was serving breakfast with that program, and I was subscribing to the Panthers newsletter. So I was getting an education, a legal education through the newsletters that the Black Panthers were putting out, and which saved me on several occasions. And of course, it piqued my interest, so I read up a little bit on different areas of law, especially criminal law. And there was a period when I did think about going to law school and becoming a criminal attorney. But otherwise, my girlfriends that I grew up with, we weren't on the front lines. So I didn't do any protests until I got to New York City.
Mm.
you know, in the early 70s. So my growing up in Michigan, like I said, my parents protected me, my sister and I, and just kind of, unless we were really nosy about something, but we didn't discuss politics. I'm sorry, my dog hears somebody at the door. That's Daisy, everybody. She's my guardian. You know, so Daisy. So it wasn't until I left home that I started looking into what was really going on in the Black community. When I got to New York, of course, I was involved with the East, which was in Brooklyn, because they would do a lot of concerts, and they would have people coming to speak, and the last poets would go there. And I mean, it was, you know, Gil Scott-Heron. It was that kind of a thing. Betty Carter would play there. Mtume with his father, you know, with the Heath brothers, and Pharaoh Saunders, and I mean Gary Bartz, all these people, you know. So you had this community where there was a lot of commentaries about a lot of social commentary about what was going on at the time. But it was done through music, and it was done in a way that it wasn't necessarily like hammering you over the head with the messages that were being delivered. But the messages were getting out there. But what I remember when I got to New York, besides working with the Panther Party and distributing brochures when they would have meetings and that kind of stuff, and printing them up in secret at the bank where I worked, you know, my growing up was okay. You know, I do remember when I was, I think I was 6 years old, and my mother gave my sister and I some money. Well, she gave the money to me because I was the older sister, and she told us we could go downtown. So me being the older sister, I want to impress my sister Rhonda, and so we go to a store that doesn't exist anymore, but it was very popular in the 50s and the 60s, and it was Woolworths.
Oh, Woolworths, yeah.
Okay, and Woolworths had the soda counters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, let's go get sodas, because mommy had given us this money. And I'm 6 years old. It's 1956. We just go on up to the counter and pull out our little stools and sit down at the counter. And this white woman who was behind the counter comes over to us and says, little girls, you know colored people are not supposed to sit at the counter. You have to get up. And that was my first recollection of there being this difference. And that my sister and I, and then therefore my family, and then it, you know, because it just then spilled over.
Right.
Realizing, oh, we're not allowed to sit at the counter. And my mother didn't even tell us we weren't allowed to sit at the counter. She just told us to go on downtown, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, what is freedom? I don't know. All my life, I've fought for my freedom, for my place. I've fought as an individual. I used to get in fights with boys growing up. Anytime someone would shout that N-word at me, and I was only one of 4 Black kids in a Catholic school, you know. So I had to learn how to walk in 2 different worlds when I was growing up: the Black world and then the rest of the world, which is the white world. So I always remember my youth having moments where I had to defend myself. Defend myself as a young colored girl, because that's what we were at that time. We were colored. And then we became Negro. And so then as a Negro girl, I had to protect myself. And then when we became Black, I really resisted that. I'm sitting next to a Black piano. And I just never liked the word Black because Black has so many negative connotations to it. But I adjusted, I accepted it, and then Black is beautiful and Black power, all of that happened. Because one thing I can say about us as a people is we are resilient. We just keep coming through it all, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that has always struck me. So what is freedom?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of things. I think, you know, to a lot of people, it's different things to different people. I feel like I'm relatively free to live in the community that I live in, to get around like I do, to travel like I do. There is freedom in that. But of course, throughout life as Black people, and this is what white people don't really understand, we are constantly having to be on the defensive to defend ourselves in situations. So when I get ready to fly, for example, before COVID happened and I was flying, I had an attitude that I traveled with. I had a look that I traveled with. I had all kinds of stuff, you know, that could precede me to let people know that, oh, they were dealing with somebody at least on their level, if not a little bit above. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but there would always be some sort of encounter. Sometimes for me, it was wanting to use the restroom and being seated in business class and having a white businessman next to me that decided he wasn't letting me out. Having to push the flight attendant call button. I've had to do that on more occasions than I care to remember. Because in my quest for freedom, I have been stuck in an airplane next to somebody that did not agree with what my thoughts about freedom were. You know, so I think asking a Black person what is freedom is a loaded question.
Yeah. It's interesting you said that because I'll never forget I was going on a tour and the whole band was flying business class. And I remember going to the airport and going to the business class line, and the person who was at the front desk treated me as if I didn't belong there. And I had my
Did she say, or did he or she say, you know, this is business class?
something to that sort, yeah. And I had to show my passport and my ticket and say, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm performing as a musician traveling to do business, and this is my ticket. So yeah, that happens in 2020.
Oh no, yeah, it will unfortunately, until our country becomes a country of color, it's going to continue to happen. And I think, you know, as we move closer to that date, people are becoming frightened, you know, because they are seeing the extinction of a race, you know, and because there's so much mixing going on. So we are moving towards a brown world, period, where the predominant race is going to be people of color. I think we're moving to that. I don't know that I will experience it in my lifetime, but I think that that's where we're moving. You know?
What would you say, because I know you were talking about Gil Scott-Heron, and I love studying music, and I also love studying the social history that goes with the music that's happening at the time, because I always feel like music is a reflection of the time.
Yeah.
And what do you feel as an artist is our duty with our music and reflecting our community through our song?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, we all have different uses in the business. So some people, some artists are going to be more socially conscious, and they are going to write songs that are about the social mores of the day, of the times. There are some beautiful one-offs that are coming out now that people are doing that I'd never heard of, but they're doing these amazing, just one-off songs. I know that there will be artists who will address the situation. I don't know where I fit in this present situation, because I've just been trying to be still.
Yeah. Wow.
As an artist, because I'm not feeling inspired in any particular way. I am listening to some recordings that I had done at the Blue Note back in February to possibly put out a live album. But otherwise, I am not feeling that kind of freedom to perform and to create and to write. I have noticed for myself, I have little moments where the anger will just kind of like seep through, and it'll just kind of like go, kind of like when we had our first conversation and then I got angry. So I think I'm at a place in my life where I'm just trying to keep a lid on me, because I'm trying to understand all of these emotions that I'm having. And so for me, my freedom right now is just about me being in my space and just trying to figure out what it is that I'm gonna do. I can tend to be I can take a while to figure stuff out for myself. And I've always been that kind of artist that will just kind of shut down and you won't hear from me. If we were working now, that would be a whole different thing, because I did have some projects that I wanted to do and some music that I wanted to do.
Right.
But as we're not, I don't know. So I feel free to go out in my yard and talk with my neighbors on either side of me. I feel free to get on my bike and ride through my community. I live in a gated community, a golf community. I feel free to get in my car and drive across the Mississippi River Bridge and go be in the actual center of the city of New Orleans, to socialize with both Black and white people. And I do feel a sense of freedom and belonging when I am out. I don't travel into poorer neighborhoods at all. I try to just stick to my beaten path so that I know that I can be safe, relatively safe. But besides our music providing us with freedom of expression, a lot of us as Black people have been able to get to a level in our lives where we can feel some kind of social freedom, and we can move within the larger society. But with this president, this person that came and took the presidency, and all of the hatred and the racially divisive things that he's saying and doing, it's beginning to make it difficult to go outside of the Black world. And I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable every now and then when I get with my white friends. There's like a little elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. We never, with the white people that I know here, we've not had any discussions about racism. Or, being Black in a white world. These are older people, though. These people are older than I am, and I'm 70, so I'd say between like 74 and 80. This is who I hang out with. Otherwise, I hang out with musicians who are all younger than me, who are in their 40s and their 30s. But I do have a couple of white friends who are in their early 60s. So they're a little younger than me. But these are very tense times. I feel a tension in the air. I just feel a tension that kind of permeates everything. And I know that we're all just on pins and needles about, you know, the election and how that's going to turn out and whether we'll be able to vote. These are trying times. These are really trying times.
And on top of that, of course, what's happening with, you know, the events that happened the last couple of months with Breonna Taylor and Philando Castile and so many other countless lives that were killed. But we're also dealing with the struggle of, well, when do we have justice for people that were killed innocently? In addition with this climate that's happening in the country that is, it's ripping open some old wounds that have never healed.
No.
But we're pushing forward when we have a lot of issues that really need to be dealt with for the last 400 years that haven't been dealt with.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, yes, we need to be dealing with these things, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. We live in a country, we live in a world where there was division and it was like divide and conquer. We come from a country, Africa, that was colonized. I mean, everything, even though, you know, Africans who are born and stay and live in Africa can say, yes, we are African. You know, they deal with stuff too because of the colonization that had happened and all of the what's the word I'm looking for? I can't find it right now, Camille. But all of the corruption that has gone on in all of these different countries, you know, that this is stuff that we learned from the colonizers who came to Africa and just pillaged the land, you know? So our people, we have just been hit from every angle that you can think to aggress a people. We have been aggressed as a people and pulled apart as a people. And I mean, I think that, I mean, we see it, I see it when I talk with some younger people, when I talk about, you know, the elections. And a lot of Black people are angry with Kamala Harris for what she did as a prosecutor. So a lot of people cannot see that just, it's almost like the last election. We had Hillary Clinton and we had Donald Trump. And a lot of young people, a lot of young Black people that I talked to were not for either, so they didn't vote at all. They did not understand that by not voting, this is what happens. I am afraid that we kind of, you know, we the window for the voting was after George Floyd was murdered and when Black Lives Matters took some real prominence and there was a lot of protesting going on. But I think ours is a lazy country. I think the United States is a lazy country. And then people start going back inwards and into themselves. And I don't know that this is going to translate in a vote. And then, so much of our freedom, our democracy is being eroded. And so the voting that's being eroded, the being able to vote, the way that they're pulling up all of the mailboxes in rural areas. You know how you always had that little blue box on a corner that you could go and drop that letter in that had to be mailed?
Yeah.
The postal system is being destroyed. The Social Security is being destroyed. Our whole democracy is in question. That's my feeling. So if we don't get at least, Biden and Harris in to kind of counter and straighten things up, I don't know where this country is headed.
Yeah.
I think we're losing our position as the first world country, though. We're losing that power.
Well, it's like you said, the heart of democracy is being literally attacked.
Yeah.
On one degree, going back to what you were saying about Kamala, it's interesting that she got nominated to be Biden's potential VP. This is the 100th year of women's suffrage and their right to vote. So there's an interesting kind of coming together of the history and the time. Well, what do you think about that as far as for women in the last 100 years of what we had to do and mobilizing and trying to have a voice?
Well, 100 years, the women's suffrage. We still are in suffrage. Come on.
Yep.
That movement, I'm lukewarm about the women's suffrage movement because Black women were left out. We've always been held to a higher standard. We always have to be 10 times better than, and then if our flavor changes, we get dropped like hot potatoes, especially Black women. So the women's suffrage movement, that wasn't for me. I guess I am the result of women being able to vote because my mama voted, my mama could vote, my auntie could vote. Black women could vote, but that actual movement, I didn't really feel like that movement belonged to Black women. It was white women.
But it's also interesting too, because I was doing some reading and it's like you said, there were Black women that were mobilizing on the ground, but never got the same attention or the same spotlight and being included in founding this movement and making things happen. Even I remember there was something I was reading about in the 60s. There was a group of Black women in the South who were who worked at homes, and they were important in mobilizing and forming one of the earliest first unions. And then there was also a union out in Seattle where it was, I think, one of the first Black musician unions that was formulated by 4 Black women. So they've always historically been there, but for some reason have been written out the history books.
Well, we're written out of the history books. They just rewrite history, period. And this is something that's been going on since forever. So we're not credited for a lot of stuff that we invented as a people. So, and this is just something that just keeps being perpetuated. Our only areas where we've been really allowed to be free has been sports and music. And that's a place where, we could have some kind of dominion. Some kind, until our styles, our musical genres are taken up and then turned into something else, and our white counterparts reap more benefits than we do. So there's that too.
Yeah.
I know that as a singer, I would make way less than Diana Krall. I know that as a woman, I make half of what my male counterparts make. And I fill the same halls. So, you know, the women's suffrage, I've had to fight. I've just had to fight. We are constantly doing battle. We do battle. I mean, I've done battle as a mother. You know, I battle as a grandmother, you know, an auntie. I've always got my invisible dukes up.
Yeah.
I'm always ready, you know, and I've had some public bouts with people. I was just remembering a concert that I was supposed to do in Miami, and the promoter was French, and he was trying to do a thing with the Nice Jazz Festival anyway, and so we go to Miami, and you know, of course, he doesn't have the money. He's given everybody excuses, and so when it's my turn to go perform, in my contract it states I have to have the money, or I don't perform. It's breach of contract. So this guy wouldn't give me my money. And so I had to make a decision, and I talked with my booking agent and my manager, and of course they're both women, and we decided, no, you cannot perform. So I went out on stage with my musicians. I had them go out with me, and then I announced, I said, we're ready and able to perform, but our contract has not been respected, and therefore we're not going to be able to perform. That man tried to physically beat me up.
What?
That man tried to physically hit me and tried to throw me up against the stairwell.
Oh my God.
And I had, at that time, I had a sound engineer who had done other kinds of stuff, and so he stepped in the middle.
Wow.
And we had to call the police, but my musicians backed away.
Wow.
They backed away. They left me. Wow. So it was this little black lady with this like 6'4" crazy French man and some other crazy white men and my sound engineer and the police that had to come to separate us. So
yeah, you're always fighting.
we are always fighting. You fight to be served when you go in a restaurant or you go in a bar. You know,
yeah.
If you're sitting at a table and there are other white people around you, you be the last one to be waited on or called, you know. And it's just a constant in our lives that we live with, and people don't think about it. They just don't think about it. I don't think about it because I'm doing it all the time.
Yeah, because you're always,
you know,
on the micro level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, so we're talking about freedom. I guess I feel relatively free, but I do always, like now, I'm like looking at the cars that are going by me. I'm trying to check out if there's anybody that look cray-cray riding by me that might want to pop. Do you know what I mean? I am taking away some of my personal freedoms. I am just not going places where I have not been right now. I was going to get on the highway and I was going to drive to Florida to stay with my father. Well, I have to drive through Mississippi and Alabama, and then I have to drive through Florida. I'm not doing that right now. As a single black woman,
yeah,
riding in a car by myself, no, I'm not doing that. So, I mean, our freedom, I don't know, freedom is like happiness. What is happiness, please?
Yeah.
What is this? What are these words that people made up? What is this stuff?
You're right about that, Dee Dee.
I mean, it's a, I guess essentially freedom is a state of mind, isn't it?
Mind.
Huh?
I said that's the name of the show, Freedom State of Mind.
Oh, that is the name of the show. I didn't mean to borrow the name of the show, but it is. But it is. It's a state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right.
It's a place where we can go and be free, is in our own minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had said earlier, music provides a source of freedom for me. At least it does.
Yeah.
And I cherish it. And I'm really grateful for it. I am grateful for the people that decided they wanted to be the booking agents, the people that decided they wanted to do the management, the people that decided they were going to put on concerts, the people that decided they were going to open up a jazz club, the people that decided that they're going to put together a festival. I am grateful for all of these people. I am grateful for all of the technicians. I am grateful for all of the production that goes into doing one teeny tiny little thing. Look at us.
Yeah.
We have Adam.
Yep. Thanks, Adam.
And then Adam has somebody that, you know what I'm saying? But so I think freedom is about, as I'm talking, there is a part of being free that you have to be grateful for. We have to be grateful for our freedoms that we do have. And we have to show respect to the people that have been a part of creating our free space for us to perform and to try and bring about some kind of spiritual healing or whatever it is that the artist is trying to do in those moments, but all of these people that decided to be involved in this music business that you and I are able to appreciate as performers, wow, those people help bring us a lot of freedom.
They sure do.
And they protect our freedom by protecting our contracts.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's absolutely right. And people like you who help the next generation. I can never forget when we did that Haven Hang a few weeks ago. You encouraged so many young women and reminding them to fight and speak up for themselves, because that we sometimes forget right away when we get in those situations when we're scared or we're nervous or we feel like we're up against the wall. And it's people like you that give us that example to remind ourselves, wait a minute, no, I don't have to take this. I have the freedom to say no.
Yeah. No is a beautiful word. I didn't learn the power of no until I was 40 years old. The day I turned 40 was the first time I said no. And the world didn't fall apart.
Nope.
People didn't fall out. There were no heart attacks that happened. I refused a gig. I said no.
The world was still standing.
And the world stood. And then, man, once I got into that no business, I haven't been the same since. Freedom is, there's an aspect of freedom that is about being able to say no.
Yeah.
Being able to defend your worth, your value.
Mm-hmm.
There's freedom in that.
There is.
So we are free to be the kind of individuals that we want to be. We are free to choose who we are going to associate with. We are free to decide if we want to work at a particular venue or not. We have those kinds of freedoms. We wake up every morning and, we're in a kind of free space. We're in our own homes. And so our choices, we make all of those choices free without any interference or influence on us. So we have those kinds of freedoms in our private life, you know, and we have all of these wonderful people around the world that come together to help us experience some freedom and some joy when we perform. I think that's fantastic. And then we have all our essential workers.
That's right. We do.
And, you know, I stay in luxury hotels when I travel. And the staffing of those hotels. I mean, so we don't even think about all of the little minutia that happens for us to go from point A to point B. And all of the people that it takes to get us from point A to point B.
That's right. From the time you leave your house to the time you
car services. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Sky caps. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Freedom. That's a kind of freedom.
Sure is.
I think, you know, if you're going to really try and practice or respect your freedom, then you have to respect others. Something that I try to do every single day is, no matter where I go, to ask somebody their name. If I'm having an interaction with somebody, I want to know who I'm talking to, because I want that person to know that they are important too.
That's right.
You know, so if I go to the gas station, I fill my car up, I want to go inside and I want to get a soda or something. I get up to the cashier and he's doing his thing or she's doing her thing, and I go, hello, how are you? Okay, my name's Dee Dee, what's yours? And sometimes it really jars them because they're so used to being mistreated or ignored.
That's right.
Same thing when you go to a restaurant, or I mean anywhere, or you walk into, well, we don't do the retail anymore, but you know.
Right.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I only have 20%. I didn't charge my phone.
Yeah, that's time.
So yeah, you know, it's, I don't know, Camille, it's all relative, isn't it?
It is. There's so many ways of looking at it. It's like when we perform, there's so many, nothing is ever going to be executed the same more than once. It's always going to be different. And there's always a different way of looking at it. There's always a different way of listening to sound. There's always a different way of expressing our emotions, or even with just one song, it can have so many meanings. Same lyrics, but we have so many different ways of interpreting it. So many different ways of performing and soloing or speaking through the music, depending on what we're feeling. So when we're talking about free, I think it's the same thing when it comes down to talking about freedom too. There's so many ways of looking at it. And it's like what you said, the way we live it, the way we think it, the macro, the micro, the things that we carry, the things we release. There's so many ways of looking at it. And I think it's relative to the personal experience too.
Yeah.
I'm dying, but
we have some questions.
Definitely have some questions. Adam, I think you want to open up this now to have some people asking questions. I know they got some questions to ask.
Yeah, let me do it. Just remind everybody, if you're in Zoom, use the raise hand feature if you have a question you'd like to ask. And on Facebook, go ahead and post any questions you may have in the comments. In the meantime, while people are actually, here's one already from Katheryn. So Katheryn, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, there we go. Hi.
Hey, Katheryn.
Hi, how are you? I've been enjoying this immensely. I truly have, and I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm feeling your pain. I'm right here in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was shot. in her bed. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, Breonna Taylor could be me.
Yes.
If somebody comes through my door at 1 o'clock in the morning with a battering ram, they're not going to say, oh, Katheryn, are you a college graduate? Oh, Katheryn, do you have these degrees? No, I'm going to be shot bloody in my bed. So, and Oprah has put up those posters all around town, and someone has already put red paint through the forehead, Breonna Taylor's forehead, on one of those posters.
Oh my God.
So, oh yes. So there's a lot of angst for me.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of angst. I mean, what's the difference between me and Breonna Taylor? To most people, nothing. We're both Black women. That's all.
Yep.
And I'm just a little bit younger than you are, Miss Bridgewater. So, what I can relate to what you're saying. We had the riots here in Louisville, Kentucky, but my parents didn't shelter me for them. We had to lay on the floor, when they were having the riots, so we didn't get shot. So, but anyway, there's all that pain, but, there's also the hope too. I had a chance to meet John Lewis a couple years ago, and I could have had one of those selfies, but it was in the back of a church, and it was at a funeral, so I didn't whip out my phone. But he had just been on The View a couple days ago, and this was in Louisville, Kentucky. He had just been on The View a couple days ago because Donald Trump had done something Donald Trumpish, I'll just put it that way. And he said to me, Katheryn, you have to keep hope. You have to keep hope. And I said, I think of all the things that I've gone through, but I don't know that I was physically threatened as you were. And I said, that just amazes me. And he, he's just such a kind, humble, peaceful man. And he said, you have to keep hope. And the other thing with the Breonna Taylor thing is, we Black women in Louisville are raising up. Let me tell you, we are raising up. And if you'll read the press for the Black Lives Matter movement, it's all Black women that are leading the Black Lives Matter movement. And the other thing is, we're attracting not only publicity from around the world, and I always hate when we have bad publicity, but we're actually attracting help from around the world. So this is what I'm saying. We band together, we're going to be unstoppable. And you're saying, the U.S. is becoming brown. 80% of this world's population is brown. We're already brown. It's this United States that just has its head in the sand. So, folks, we just need to band together. We have people coming from out of town. Now, some of them bring big guns, and that brings another set of angst for me. But people are coming to Louisville, Kentucky. We have a group that's coming to spend a month here to help us because they say, you've been protesting for long. We've had protest every day for over 75 days.
Wow.
So, like I said, we can't go through this again in 2030. We've got to get this done now. And on my Facebook page, I said, fix it, America. And we've got to fix it now, or America will lose, and we're already losing. I'm sorry, you pressed my play button. It's very emotional for me. And like I said, it's happening right here where I live.
Yeah.
And, my name could be Breonna instead of Katheryn. People look at me and just see me as a Black woman. That's all they see. It's just another Black woman. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I hear you, Katheryn. I hear you. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing what's going on in Louisville with us. Thank you so very much.
We're
Yeah. You know, Katheryn, sometimes what I find is I have to pull away, and I can't. I'm in a state right now where I cannot take in too much information because I'm feeling emotionally unstable. So when I have those moments, then I just don't watch the news. Because
Overload.
You know, there's only so much that your heart can take.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's wonderful to know that there are people that have picked up the mantle and are now really fighting. And those of us who are older, we don't have to scream and shout as much because we've got younger people, you know, who are able to do this for us. We can be there to support, and that's what I want to do, be supportive. But I cannot imagine how it must be for you in Louisville to wake up every day and to have that still hanging over your head. And no, I mean, no justice has been done. But there are so many cases. There are so many cases where no justice has been done. So how do we fight? We do, you know, like what's going on in Louisville. We come together with groups when we can do that thing. But we also have this pandemic that is going on that has thrown this other curveball in there for all of us. But I'll tell you something that I find interesting, Katheryn, and then to everybody that's here. We have not heard anything about COVID being passed during any of the demonstrations. None. Nobody said anything. Has anybody here heard anything? Nothing. So yeah, we were wearing our mask, yes. So I just find that very interesting.
Yeah. And I think also we have to remember that even though we're in a pandemic, we still have to hold our local state and local representatives accountable. Like even in the case of Breonna Taylor and so many other cases that were left just kind of open and no closure or no justice, we have to keep pushing and keep pressing for these issues to be at the front of the table, because otherwise it'll keep continuing to get washed away by the new thing and the new thing. And of course, there's always things that distract us that's always consistently being thrown at us. We're in the social media age now where there's so much information that it's easy to just forget and just have something else take over. But as we have to remember our power in numbers and as a community to keep these issues at the forefront and put the people that we elect in office in the place where they're being held accountable to do something.
These are all great words. If we don't vote, if we don't get out and vote as a people, then we're going to have to shut up. Because I think that we are at a very critical point for African American people, for people of color. If we don't vote in November, we can forget it. We can kiss this all goodbye. All of the protesting, all of this that's been going on, if we don't take this to the polls in November, then what have we been doing it for? Now that everybody is aware of how it is our duty as citizens to hold our elected people responsible, if we don't go to the polls and vote, we can't say anything, in my humble opinion.
And that's all levels of voting.
Yeah.
Just for the presidential, every level, every election that comes
every time there is an election here in Louisiana and in New Orleans, I'm there. I am early. I always go on the first day. I voted so much that the ladies now know who I am. So, well, okie dokie then. You know, and they say, oh, we didn't know when Miss Bridgewater was coming in. We had a bet. Was it going to be the first day or the second day? Because I usually go on the first day. You know, but this is where we do have some power.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think this is where we exercise that state of mind and being free, coming
Yeah.
together, fighting for our communities and fighting for what we know we want as a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, here in New Orleans, the police department here is now being called on by police departments all over the United States because of the way that the police department handles crime. I mean,
Hmm.
it's rare that somebody is shot for no reason
Wow.
down here. And the police department, right after, you know, George Floyd's murder, the police were out in the streets with the people protesting here in New Orleans.
That's beautiful.
So this is a very particular place that I'm in. I feel like it's in the old days when you talked about East Berlin and West Berlin, and you couldn't get into East Berlin. Well, I went. And so Berlin was this little, West Berlin was this little bitty island in the middle of this entire country of just communist crazy.
Mm.
And so I feel like in New Orleans, it's kind of like that. We're in this, it's a safe haven. It is a racially diverse, it's a very, very culturally rich city. And then you go outside and things close down.
Mm.
And then it becomes real black and white.
Mm.
It's interesting. Is there another question?
That's actually about all the time we have. Before I wrap up, do either of you have any sort of closing words before I sign us off?
Closing words. I would just say to everyone, you know, to try and stay as mentally healthy as you can, because it's gonna start getting really, really difficult. And if it means that you have to reach out and talk to other people, do that. If it means that at 2 a.m. you can't sleep, write down your thoughts, start writing. You know, not necessarily keeping a journal, but I just am really concerned about our country's mental state. I've noticed that people are driving really crazy.
Yeah.
Really crazy. I mean, just crazy. And when I'm out, like if I go to a park or something, people are doing a little bit of crazy stuff in a way that they weren't before. So I'm really concerned about our mental well-being. So everyone, please, and this is myself included, you know, love on yourself and reach out if it starts feeling really black to you, if the world just seems dark and like there's no way out. That's when you really got to pick up a phone and make a call, okay? And freedom. We were free enough that we were able to come together for this Zoom. That's some freedom.
That's right.
We were able to have a discussion. That's some freedom. We have not yet had, you know, that taken away from us. So let us try and protect all the freedoms that we do have and vote. That's all I can say. We gotta vote. We must vote. It's really important. And then, you know, find your organizations, your charities that you want to work with. You know, if you want to get on the Breonna Taylor situation, then do that. If you want to connect with people in your community to do something, do it. Do it. Let's not think. Let's go past the thinking about it. Let's do it. Let's start doing something that's going to help bring about this change. Vote!
Dee Dee, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today on Freedom State of Mind and for sharing your personal thoughts and your experiences and your stories. I know and so many other people that are watching this show are really truly grateful for your honesty and your transparency and just your love and being able to share. Again, like what Dee Dee
You're
was saying
welcome.
out there are organizations out there available where you can help with trying to fight racial and social injustice regarding Breonna Taylor and so many other people that are still coming together and fighting for people of color whose lives have been murdered and taken away. There's also organizations out there to help and get the word out there and voting and getting people to sign up and register. So hopefully maybe we could try to figure a way to put some information out for those who are interested. But once again, thank you so much, Dee Dee Bridgewater. Let's give her
Oh, Camille, thank you. Camille Thurman, you are divine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Katheryn. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you guys so much. If you guys enjoyed this episode of Freedom State of Mind, we'll look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for another meaningful conversation. And just want to say thank you to our guest, Dee Dee Bridgewater, and to our host, Camille Thurman, for your amazing insights, anecdotes, and wisdom. And we'll see you all next week for another evening of conversation. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
You too. Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Stay strong. Bye-bye.
Wear your mask.